This episode of the Farmers Weekly podcast is brought to you by crop protection specialists Certis Belgium.
What I want to see is us using nature, biodiversity, using the experience and understanding of the people who actually work the land, farmers, to develop policy, rather than developing policy in Westminster, in Whitehall, often done by people who don't actually have experience of the land in the first place.
Hello and welcome to the Farmers Weekly podcast from the Groundswell show in Hertfordshire, where this week Tory leader Kemi Badenoch told us how she wants farmers to tell her their ideas of how to create the best rural policy for Britain. Also, can private money pay for green farming? Lloyds Bank thinks so. We hear from them as they launch a new scheme. And 10 years on, we talk to Alex Cherry about a decade of organising the UK's leading alternative farming show. Welcome to the Farmers Weekly podcast, coming to you this week from the Groundswell show in Hertfordshire. I'm Hugh Broom, this week standing in for Johan Tasker. The second day here at Groundswell was very much the political day, with not only the Defra ministerial team attending, but also Tory leader Kemi Badenoch. Also attending was the EFRA chair Alistair Carmichael and his team. The leader of the opposition was here to tell everyone that she was all ears when it comes to developing rural policy, and she stopped short of committing any future Conservative government to retaining any of the existing farming schemes. Earlier, Louise Impey caught up with her.
I've been walking around the whole festival with Alex Cherry. This is a learning experience for me. Quite a lot of the time, what I'm doing at agricultural festivals is telling people what it is that the Conservative Party wants to do. But Alex wanted me to learn a lot more about regenerative farming. And I think it's really important to see the various ways that we can look after our environment. We spent a long time trying to look after the environment with targets that have actually made it harder around carbon emissions. What I want to see is us using nature, biodiversity, using the experience and understanding of the people who actually work the land, farmers, to develop policy, rather than developing policy in Westminster, in Whitehall, often done by people who don't actually have experience of the land in the first place. So yes, we do want to see more nature-focused policy within our environmental and rural affairs portfolio. Farmers tell us so many things about the problems that they have, and we want to solve each of them one by one.
What farmers really need at the moment is stability. We've had an awful lot of chop and change, stop and start. If you inherited an imperfect policy, but one that farmers had bought into, would you continue with that, or would you look to change it?
Well, it depends on what we mean by imperfect. Sometimes people just accept what's there because they feel that they have no other choice. I like to start from first principles. I like to start from common sense. I do recognise that people need stability and certainty, and that's why we've come up with a plan which should work for farming, for all agricultural businesses, and even beyond that. Let's bring down energy costs. That will help everyone. We spend a lot of time devising schemes, starting things, stopping them. Actually, perhaps if we didn't create problems for farmers in the first place, we wouldn't need all these schemes. One of the problems we've created is higher energy costs. It's time for us to bring those costs down. Taxes are another issue. The farmers tell me that they would like to see sorted. That's why I've said we will reverse the family farms tax. Labour has done a partial U-turn. We just want to get rid of it. Farming is different, like the family business tax, APR, BPR. They are different because people are having to sell part of their assets to pay these taxes, which means that they can't actually carry out the businesses. We're not employing young people. So let's create some stability for them. Let's create some certainty. We've made it too difficult to hire young people, too expensive. Let's look at what we can do to get them into jobs. We have a youth unemployment crisis. So flexible labour markets is something that farmers do tell me. But I recognise and the rest of the 5-point plan really is cutting red tape. I'm sure there are lots of things the farmers think we can do without, and just championing business. Let's champion the land. Let's champion the people who work it. I think there's a lot of exciting stuff the Conservatives are going to be bringing, but we need your ideas as well. We're not pretending that we know everything, and I'm not here to say that everything we did before was perfect. That's why I'm starting from first principles. I want people to know what the Conservative Party under my leadership is about now.
So on that, the farming roadmap eventually dropped last week. Isn't that something that the Tories should have done 6 years ago?
Well, I think Vicky Atkins could probably speak with a lot more knowledge on that. I'm not going to pretend that I know every single thing that is in the farming roadmap. There were many things which we did in government that were a response to Brexit, leaving the EU, something many farmers voted for. But people did not necessarily like the way that the schemes that were put in were handled. We had to deal with COVID as well. Labour have now dropped a roadmap, 25 years, but we don't know what we're going to get with Labour in the next 25 days. There's a new Prime Minister coming in. Is he going to accept this roadmap? So the point about stability, I think, is really key. Let's see if they actually stick to the plans which they've brought in. I understand that people are tired of being, sent one way and then told that they have to go another. I really do get that. But I would be looking to organisations like the NFU, for example, and even Farmers Weekly to tell me what it is that you think that farmers need most. We are in the phase of developing policy, so let's hear those ideas.
I think we need to look forwards on that rather than try and reinvent the past. A final question for you. Andy Burnham's speech, which I think was on Monday, mentioned revitalising manufacturing sectors, one of which was farming. That's what people probably want to hear at this event. How do you think they're going to do that? I
don't actually think that Andy Burnham's Manchesterism has very much to do with rural life. I don't think he's thought that far ahead. I mean, I wish him well as an individual, because we want our prime ministers to do well for the country, even as a political opponent. What I've seen is that the last 2 years, we had a government that didn't have a plan, hadn't thought things through, clearly had no agenda whatsoever for rural areas. And look what's happened. They made a catastrophic mistake bringing that tax in. So let's see what Andy Burnham will do. I think that what the manufacturing sector needs is lower energy costs above all else. That will help with so many problems. If he agrees with me, then he should do things that will lower our energy, like drilling our own oil and gas in the North Sea, for example, removing all the silly taxes. Let's see what he actually does.
And Emma Reynolds is here today, and she's given a speech. Is that her swan song, do you think?
It could be. You'll have to ask Andy Burnham that.
So, Louise, great interview there with Kemi Badenoch, leader of the opposition. Obviously, the second day of Groundswell, the Thursday, was the big politicians' day when everyone was there. The minister was there, the leader of the opposition was there, the chair of the Defra committee was there. Obviously, the leader of the opposition, her piece there, she talks about wanting to do nature-friendly farming things, because obviously she wouldn't go to Groundswell and say, we want the most intensive agriculture on the planet. I mean, it's pretty meaningless at this stage in the political cycle, isn't it, Louise, in terms of what she's saying? And she was also saying that she wanted lots of help developing the policies.
Yeah, she was saying that. They were in learning mode, I think, is how she described it to me. And we have heard that, haven't we, from the Conservatives before, in that they're listening. Well, that's fine, but actually I think now the farming community needs a bit more from them, because, at some stage we're going to have to understand a lot more about what their policy is going forward. So, look, it was very good of Kemi to do an interview with us like that, because this is a very specialist area for a leader of a party. So, she didn't shy away from any of the questions. I think she did refer me once to Victoria Atkins for one of the answers. But otherwise, she took it all head on. I mean, some of those messages, obviously, they fit in with everything else that the Conservatives are saying at the moment. But good on her for doing it, and let's hope that we see some more concrete plans from them before too long.
No, absolutely. And yeah, it was great of her to, like you say, to get involved. And I think she spent quite a time there at the show going down. Alex Cherry was showing around the show, seeing what was what. Now, joining us also, we're very honoured to have Farmers Weekly's very own editor, Andrew Meredith. Welcome along, Andrew. You were busy at Groundswell. One of the things you did, I think, was chair a panel which included the Defra Secretary of State, Emma Reynolds. Was Emma Reynolds a minister walking around with a reshuffle target on her back, given all that's going on with Mr Burnham soon to take over number 10 South and number 10 North?
Well, hello, Hugh. Hello, Louise. The honour is mine, obviously, being on the Farmers Weekly podcast. There was some lovely background hokey-cokey in the run-up to the event at Groundswell. Would the Secretary of State take questions from the audience or from me, or would she not? In, out, in, out. And in the end, she did a 10-minute speech and went off to run round the show without taking questions. So I would say that's a symbol of timidity, someone playing it safe, perhaps just holding on to some hope that they might cling on to their job rather than say something wrong on the big stage and embarrass herself in proximity to that decision. I don't know. What do you think?
Well, I mean, look, when she did the CLA conference the other year, last November, that was a bit of a North Korean effort. There was filtered questions from the floor. A couple of set-up ones, which was complete set-up because she wouldn't do any live questions. I don't know. It could be. I suppose you've got to look at it this way, hasn't he? If Mr. Burnham is going to create a large Labour tent, would he bring fractions of various bits of the party into that tent? And in doing so, if she's part of the Keir group, it may be that he deems Defra. It's not insignificant, but it's obviously not the biggest, sexiest jobs up there with sort of, Foreign Secretary and Chancellor and Home Secretary and stuff. So it may be that, she does escape a reshuffle. And to be fair to her, she has cracked into the job and stuff's been moving forward. You can't take that away from her. We've had more probably in 12 months from her, haven't we, than we had in nearly 2 years from Steve Reed. Did she say anything, Andrew, when she did her speeches and then did the Q&A piece?
I think she's very pleased to get the farming roadmap out the door, as well as the formal response to the Minute Batters profitability review. That's sort of done and dusted in a way now. And she did have the updates then on SFI, the 50 hectare capped scheme, of course, is open.
The cash is going out the door. The cynics in the room will say, it's because there's not a lot of cash in it. Louise, there's some big changes to the high level scheme stuff. High level scheme no longer a competitive thing, and some changing around of options from SFI to high level.
Yeah, well, they've changed the way that you can apply for countryside stewardship higher tier. So that was before by invitation only, but now they're saying that they're opening it up, making it more accessible, and that they will consider applications of interest from farmers. Now that's been very well received because, of course, when they tinkered with the SFI, with SFI 26, they removed an action which was known as species-rich grassland, and people were really, really disappointed about that. Well, that is now in the higher tier countryside stewardship. So by opening it up a bit more, those people that were very disappointed and saw that as a big loss will still hopefully be able to access that action, but they'll have to do it through that scheme rather than through the SFI.
Finally, here at the show, Andrew, was there anything else that really stood out for you at Groundswell? You were here for both of the days.
I think the big question is around private finance, isn't it? There was a bit of talk about that on the stage in my panel. We've been talking about it for a couple of years in different guises, really, and we're seeing a trickle of private money coming in to complement the public money to buy all of these changes that support biodiversity, reduce carbon, help the environment. But it's in nothing like the quantities that the optimists have been hoping for a number of years now. And I'm still not seeing any sign, really, that the taps have been fully turned on. And I wonder how long people will keep holding out hope that there is more money around the corner.
And Andrew, that public money, the private money coming into the public goods is few and far between. We're going to talk about a new scheme being headed up by Lloyds Bank in a bit, but that only amounts to barely £1 million, so it's a drop in the ocean. Finally, Andrew, the new farming minister, Stephen Morgan, the Secretary of State fled and didn't take questions on your panel. Did you see the new farming minister, Stephen Morgan? Was he interacting?
I didn't see him, but he was on the showground. He was doing the rounds as well, talking to people privately. So doing his bit to soak up the sunshine and the positivity. That's why politicians like going to Groundswell, isn't it? There's people are trying to be nice in a way that they perhaps aren't in the NFU tent at the Norfolk show or somewhere like that.
Yeah, he was just having a nice day out, I think. But yeah, Hugh, he was there. He was doing the rounds. But none of us got any access to him at all.
And now a special word from Certis Belchim about take-all, a particular disease risk for second and third cereal crops in tighter rotations.
A good control strategy is key, including flexible cultivation decisions. Different seasons require different approaches. But when it comes to take-all, the focus has to be on creating the best possible environment for early, healthy root development.
That's especially important on medium and heavy clay soils where compaction and poor structure can really favour take-all development. Restricted rooting doesn't just limit nutrient and water uptake, it also leaves crops far more exposed to infection and early stress.
If you're asking a second or third wheat to perform, roots need unrestricted access to moisture and nutrients, which brings us neatly to a proven root-focused solution for take-all control: latitude.
Latitude from Certis Belchim works by protecting roots during establishment, helping crops maintain stronger, healthier root systems for longer, and that protection becomes even more valuable when conditions are challenging.
Treatment works best as part of a full integrated strategy, so match latitude with cultural controls, managing cereal volunteers, controlling grass weeds, and reducing soil compaction can all help reduce take-all pressure.
Better roots, better establishment and better resilience. That's a strong foundation for second and third wheat success. Make sure your seed is treated with Latitude from Certis Belchim.
The Farmers Weekly Podcast.
Now, this week saw the launch of the Food and Nature Resilience Fund at the Groundswell show, which is basically Lloyds Bank coming together with Wildfarmed, Severn Trent Water, Affinity Water and AXA, basically to move private funds into nature-friendly farming schemes so that producers can benefit from them. Earlier, Louise and I caught up with Ben Makowiecki, who's the Agriculture Sustainability Director at Lloyds Bank.
So Ben, you have launched this week the Food and Nature Resilience Fund. Can you tell us a bit more about that?
Yeah, we're really excited to launch this. So this is a partnership between Lloyds Bank and Wildfarmed. It started with a conversation that we had with Andy Cato at New York Climate Week last year, talking about how can we recognise the value in that the outputs that Wildfarmed farmers produce in terms of nature, biodiversity, water quality, flood risk management. How can that be recognised?
So give us an example of some of the companies that you're involved in or are getting involved in this to put money in.
Yeah, so the first three funders, other than Lloyds, are Severn Trent Water, Affinity Water and AXA. And they recognise the benefits that are going to come from having systemic industry-level scaling up of regen ag.
So someone like Severn Trent, for example, if I decided in Surrey, which isn't in the Severn Trent Water area, to start growing wheat for Wildfarmed, they're happy to fund. I'm off their manor. I'm in Thames Water territory.
No, absolutely. So the water companies have been really progressive about this. They recognise that to get that industry level scaling up, they can't anymore just fund their priority catchment areas. They need systemic change across the industry. So they're happy that their funding goes to farmers across the UK.
So yeah, as you've just said, this is funding for systemic change. How long is this going to take?
It partly depends on the funding that we come in, and we're already talking to a number of other funders. And if we can do that with Wildfarmed, and we're working with other partners such as Soil Association Exchange, we're working on the Roots to Regen project, and with Woodland Trust, we can help that scale up reach hopefully 25 to 30% of all UK cereals over the next 10 years.
And the Lloyds role, is it a financial one or is it purely an administrative one? What's your actual role in this?
We are helping to fund it. We have put money into it, but we've also helped Wildfarmed design the fund, and we work very closely with a lot of food and non-food supply chain customers. We bank an awful lot of them, so we're we're working heavily on collaboration across the industry. It's the only way we're going to get this scale that we're looking at.
And we are going to be talking to Wildfarmed, but currently, if I'm a wheat grower and I'm growing my wheat for Wildfarmed, am I right in thinking that the person who pays me my premium is going to change rather than the actual premium?
Yeah, for the wild farm growers who are already there, where they won't really see any change. They're still going to get their premium pounds per tonne on every tonne that they grow for wild farms. What's going to change is where the funding comes in and how big that's going to scale. And again, this complements what they're doing in terms of their announcement last week with Kit Kat, with Nestle. They've got nearly 1,000 food brands taking regenerative crops from them now. For the growers, they might not see any direct change, but they've got an opportunity to grow more.
And cynics in the room might say, "Oh, this is just Lloyds jumping on a greening coattail, or they're going to steal all my Scope 3 numbers and take them off farm." Why are you guys involved in it?
The answer, and I know this is a bit of a buzzword at the moment, is resilience. We have 45,000 farming customers across the UK. We want them to be there in 10, 20, 30 years' time. So they need to have resilient businesses. They need to have resilient soils. They need to be able to cope with the climate change, the weather that we're seeing now, and they need to have profitable businesses. So everything that we're doing in this space is effectively about making them more profitable, more resilient. And we believe that regen farming is one of the key areas to do that. Reducing input costs, having businesses and farms that can cope with 40-degree heat, flooding, droughts, etc. So we want those customers to still be there in 20, 30 years' time.
Yeah, they're still there as banking customers, regardless of what the weather's doing. And the size of this fund, what do you anticipate that being in the first sort of year?
So for year one, it'll be about 1.3 million, but that will obviously scale up as the area scales. We're going to need funding from a number of value chain customers or value chain companies who understand the benefits that they're going to get from seeing scale.
So as public funding disappears from farms, and it is going slowly but surely, we can be confident then that this private money is going to come into these supply chains and that farmers are going to benefit from that.
Yeah, and I think that was one of the key outputs on the farming roadmap, wasn't it? The importance of private finance. The public budget is not going to get any bigger. We're going to see caps on SFI payments. I think there are an awful lot of products, propositions, pilots out there from private companies, which a lot of farmers don't know about, to be honest. So as well as producing these sorts of things, we need to talk about them as well. And we need to let farmers understand the opportunities that are out there and how they can, I hesitate to say replace SFI and subsidy, but to make the most of the opportunities that companies are willing to pay for outputs.
So a lot of people listening to this are thinking about this. They might be concerned about the transparency of this in terms of what's actually happening within this transaction. They're getting X pounds a tonne premium through this fund, but where's their data ending up? And is it adding more value further down the chain that they may be getting on farm? Yeah,
so one of the key points about this is we're not selling credits, be that carbon, nature, biodiversity. In fact, if for nature and biodiversity, other than BNG, there aren't really nature markets. So there's one of the main reasons we want to set up this fund is to bring together food production and nature outputs, improvements in nature, improvements in biodiversity. Wildfarmed are working with Defra to verify those outputs. Yes, companies who have farmers directly in their supply chain or in their value chain might be able to claim Scope 3 reductions on an insetting basis, not offsetting, but there certainly won't be any sale of credits. Data will be anonymised, data will still stay with the farmers, it's the farmers' data, and that's always important in everything that we do.
So Ben from Lloyds there, Louise, talking about the Food and Nature Resilience Fund. Look, to be fair, cynical eyes might look at it one way and go, oh, they're just trying to get data or they're trying to do this, but actually they're actually making an effort there, and there's some people investing in, and at the end of the day there's cash going on to farms.
Yeah, there is, and this is all about scaling regenerative agriculture and the practices that have these desired outcomes. So I think that's great that there's going to be some private funding money put into that, because that has been missing up to now, if we're honest. These farmers have had to rely on the SFI and those sorts of schemes for money to help them make these changes. Well, now that this fund is going live, and it's not just Lloyds, I think we should make that point, it's Wildfarmed as well, and there are other companies involved, and he says more are going to come on board. So it's good news. I think it's really good news.
And it's interesting that you've got, like, so, I mean, one of the other companies is AXA on there, and Severn Trent Water, a big outfit, they're a regional outfit, but they're a national company at the end of the day, and they're putting money in, which I think the telltale is that they're putting money into a scheme which actually a farmer way out of their area, because we know the water companies do things, a farmer way out of their area is going to benefit from. Yeah,
they are. And again, this is about scaling this and making it happen at a more national level. We know, we've been to this event in previous years, we know about the farmers that are doing this already and doing it successfully for the most part. We probably need to get more people doing this, and certainly these supply chain companies think we need to get more farmers doing this. So if they are prepared to, if you like, put their money where their mouth is, then that's good, and it will encourage more people to do this.
And the interesting thing is, there's a figure, I can't remember what it is, it's something like for every £1 spent in a catchment area, a water company saves £6, and they obviously appreciate the value of that. And you'd hope that if Affinity and Severn Trent are putting money into this national scheme for the wild farm clients, the others hopefully will follow suit.
Yeah, you have to hope that they will. This is talking about changing landscapes, isn't it? And that's what we need to happen. And so great, as you've rightly asked, your farm in your area could be then getting money from a water company from a different catchment, but actually they just need this change to happen, and they need it to happen across the country.
And interesting also that they're doing some work on the transparency to actually prove what's flowing where, I suppose ultimately to give everyone involved in the chain peace of mind.
Yeah, I mean, that is the bit I think that farmers will probably question quite hard, the transparency, and that is for understandable reasons, and we have seen some schemes in the past which perhaps haven't been as transparent as they should have been or could have been. So I think they'll have to explain that probably quite a few times. That's the one area where there will be some mistrust and there will be some concern. So, they explain it to us very well. Let's hope they explain it to everybody else just as well.
The Farmers Weekly Podcast. The Farmers Weekly Podcast.
You are listening to the Farmers Weekly Podcast. A very warm welcome to you wherever you happen to be listening to us from. We are at the Groundswell show, the 10th anniversary Groundswell show, live. Well, we're live, sending in we're not. We're pre-recorded, talking into a squawk box, sat in a field in Hertfordshire. It's great to have you along. Don't forget, if you want to get in touch with the podcast, you can. It is podcast at fwi.co.uk. That's podcast at fwi.co.uk. Louise Impey is with me, as is Andrew Meredith, Farmers Weekly editor. Louise, away from the wonderful world of Groundswell, people have been starting combining. There's lots of social media showing people with combines attacking winter barley and even some oilseed rape, Louise.
Yeah, I mean, I think after last week when I said, oh no, they haven't started yet, things have suddenly got going, haven't they? So, yes, I think we've had the first barley results now. I've only heard of one or two oilseed rape crops being harvested, but yeah, things are moving on. As always, the first results are often more disappointing than we want them to be, but that is really because these are probably crops on lighter, thinner soils that have finished earlier. So I think I'm going to reserve judgment in terms of harvest performance, because I think it's really too early to call. But I would say that obviously moisture is the thing. So where people are disappointed, they freely admit that they missed the rain or just didn't get the rain that some other people did get. So, things are going. I mean, looking forward at the weather forecast, that's going to really crack on next week. So we'll have to hope that people get results that they want and better results than last year. But I think it is going to vary enormously.
Yeah, we could do with some, dare I say it, as everyone's poised to run out with their combine, we could do with some more rain again. I know my maize could. Andrew, Donald Trump seems to be embracing, aptly, obviously he heard it was Groundswell, is embracing regen farming.
That's right, Hugh. There won't be much pre-harvest glyphosate needed perhaps for this harvest if conditions stay the same. And that's been a hot topic here in the past few weeks, and it's going to be a hot topic in the US as well. President Trump's done another of his famous executive orders, this one on regenerative agriculture, looking at a lot of different facets. They want to see more private finance for Regen Ag too. But one thing he's asked the regulators to do is have another look at pre-harvest desiccation there and check all the labels are right, check all the safety information's right. To say he's inching towards a ban on that, I think would be overstating it, and we know how powerful the farm lobbies are over there. But they definitely want to try and do a little bit to assuage the Make America Healthy Again crowd led by Mr. Kennedy, his controversial boss of the food and farming departments over there. So, it's a hot topic on both sides of the Atlantic this week.
Now, Louise, there was also a story about contaminated meat this week influencing a World Cup team.
Well, that's right. This was a story that was in the Times, and 8 of the Tunisian players of their World Cup team were stunned when a banned drug turned up in their anti-doping tests. And it turns out that the cause of this is contaminated meat. And the product that's been found is clenbuterol, which I think you probably know more about than I do, Hugh. But I'm fairly sure it's banned in Mexico just as much as it is banned here. But tell us more.
Well, yeah, apparently it's an anti-inflammatory, basically. Which can effectively be used to help with asthma. But it's good at burning up fat, basically, and promoting muscle growth. So it sounds to me, whatever it was that the football team ate, the grower of it had slipped a bit into the feed to make it a bit more muscly, but obviously had the wrong impact, and then it got caught in the team. But very unfortunate for them. There's a story also which made us all laugh. You may have seen it on the BBC website about a couple who've now got the go-ahead in rural Pembrokeshire. They're going to live off-grid, and they've basically got the go-ahead to build their sustainable eco-home, and part of the deal is they're going to breed guinea pigs so that they can eat them. So it's their protein source, living off the land sustainably. They want breeding rabbits and pairs of guinea pigs that they can produce meat from, along with a flock of 20 pigeons they're going to keep for eggs and for meat. So that's an interesting one. Different there. I don't know, just keep some chickens, but clearly they like the idea of eating pigeon. Pigeon eggs are probably a bit small. And at the show yesterday, actually, Louise, we bumped into Sir Peter Kendall, former president of the NFU and friend of the podcast, and he had a bit of a go at you, Louise.
Yes, he did. Apparently I am not optimistic and upbeat enough. So apologies to everybody else who feels the same way as Peter. I did explain to him that we do have to strike the right balance between actually being realistic as well as not making everybody feel very sad. So yes, he thinks that we need to be far more optimistic. He thinks farming's in a much better place than we sometimes suggest that it is. So I'm going to try a lot harder. I think I need to improve my delivery style, Hugh, so that I sound a bit more like you.
Not at all. You just, it's a good balance. Andrew, you have a regular encounter with Sir Peter Kendall.
Well, as you know, Hugh, I welcome feedback from all farming luminaries, Sir Peter included. Although I must say, sometimes when he calls me, he is looking to speak to the other Andrew Meredith in his life, who is the hard-working gentleman who cleans his chicken sheds. But Peter is right. we do need to be positive wherever we can be. But I think, speaking with my editor hat on, this is about which farmers we speak for as Farmers Weekly, and some farmers are always doing really well and others are feeling under the cosh, and it's important we try and represent the broadest swathe of farmers as possible.
It's called realistic positivity, isn't it, Louise? That's what you've got to do.
That's absolutely right. But really, I think probably that's enough now on former NFU presidents. Hugh, what's happening in the markets?
Thank you, Louise. We'll start with the Finnish steer deadweight this week, 597.4. That's actually gained almost a penny in the week. So a little bit of demand tickling in there. Must be all the World Cup barbecues. 342.5 is the live weight average. That's gained just over a penny, actually. 1.2 pence. On to sheep prices, just cooling off a bit, but still pretty strong. The SQQ on the deadweight is 869.2. That's dropped back about 30p, so we're starting to see those as you would normally expect this time of year. Those spring lambs coming through now with a vengeance into the marketplace. The live weight SQQ is pretty much the same, 423.8. In fact, it stands on exactly for the week. Pig price not doing too well. It's just edged back again, 177.98. So it's edged back about half a penny on the week. And on to the arable markets. Not a lot of cheer there, I'm afraid. I keep saying that far too often without depressing anybody. You'll find feed wheat this week spotted at 172.1. So that's back nearly £5 on the week. Milling wheat 193.5. That's actually gained about £6. Feed barley 145.40. That's lost 10p. Oilseed rape 415 dead. That has lost around about £12. Feed peas 208 dead. That's actually gained a fiver. Feed beans 224.2. That's lost about £7. And diesel price actually edged up a bit, although my diesel I noticed was down this week, but on the Wednesday morning ring round it's gone up a penny and a half, 80.13. So that's up from 78.58 last week. So it's rising slightly, but still not as bad as it was.
The Farmers Weekly Podcast. The Farmers Weekly Podcast.
Now, this year sees the 10th anniversary of Groundswell. It started back in 2016 with just a few hundred farmers gathering in a barn. Earlier, Louise and I caught up with Alex Cherry, who, along with his family, organise the Groundswell show.
So Alex, here we are, 10 years of Groundswell. I've been to every single one. Tell us, how did this event start?
Well, the fact that you've been to every single one means a lot. And I think without you by our side, it wouldn't be where it is today. So thank you. We started 2016 and it was the no-till show. And it was about 400 farmers in the barn. And it was quite a radical thing at that time. We put a banner up on the A507 illegally saying, come to the no-till show to capture everyone as they're on their way to cereals. And that was our sort of gonzo marketing in the beginning, along with the help of the Farming Forum as well, which was obviously a very good forum for people who were experimenting with no-till at that time, all the pioneers. And so then it sort of snowballed from there. Year two we had a grass-fed day and we tagged it on to no-till day. And then the year after that, I sort of combined it into just Groundswell event, and then the word regenerative came into the title the year after that. And now Groundswell Festival welcomes over 10,000 people, spread across 2 days still and 3 nights, and we've got about 3,000 people camping on site. And it's really nice to look back and say 10 years of this. It's been a long old journey. We really have worked very hard. We've seen a lot of faces, we've made a lot of friends, and it's great to be able to celebrate with you here today.
And how far do you think an impact does the festival have in terms of the numbers of people? Obviously you get the people coming here, but the influences it has and the links you have, not just in this country, but has it cultivated lots of international links as well?
Yeah, totally. I mean, one of the reasons we started it was because we wanted to learn more, and there wasn't that much information out there about how to do no-till well, how to look after your soil health. And so that's where we brought in the speakers from America, where they had a bit more of a sort of community around, especially the No-Till on the Plains conference in Kansas. And so ever since then, it's felt like a sort of annual thing where we have to find some sort of big-name Americans to come over with their Stetsons but they have a great stage presence and they captivate us, and it almost feels like they give us a kick up the arse to do things a little bit more quickly and to innovate a bit more. And I personally find that American attitude is something maybe we can take a leaf out of their book, and it'll help us, because we've got to innovate right now as farmers, and we've got to change, and we've got to try and do things differently. So the international audience here today is and the lineup on stage is, I'm so proud of it. I mean, we had this amazing talk this morning with a guy who'd flown in from India overnight. We had an American, we had a guy from the Netherlands, and the global network of regenerative farmers across all disciplines of regenerative farming, however you want to call it or certify it. It feels like a very cohesive, joined-up movement, and everyone is working together to try and make farming better.
One thing this event has really done is widened the conversation. So although we have got many farmers at this event, we've also got chefs, authors, musicians, poets. You've really managed somehow to widen that conversation and bring in all these other people. How have you done that?
I don't know. I think everyone wants to be part of the conversation. Regenerative movement is really positive, and not just farmers want to be involved, but it's everyone across the supply chain. And obviously there are brands and large food companies who can see the value in using that word for their marketing, and that's a whole different conversation of we go down that. But I mean, for example, with the chefs, we had Hugh Whittingstall cooking a feast for 90 people in the barn last night. And it was a real moment, because I grew up watching River Cottage and thinking, wow, this guy's cool, and now here he is on the farm cooking a feast for us with our beef, and his chef saying that it was the best pasture-fed beef he's literally ever tasted in his life. So it's amazing, and I think that connectivity throughout the supply chain and with the hospitality sector as well. I think consumers are starting to understand a little bit more about farming, and obviously the Clarkson effect, and I think we need to make the most of that as farmers. So we need to be selling our produce either cooked or in a farm shop or in a butchery or whatever it is. So bring it on.
Where does Groundswell go from here? Is this as big as it's going to get? Can it get much bigger? What are your ambitions for the event?
Yeah, it's always about quality over quantity, so we're not looking to sort of expand massively. But I think now, after 10 years, it's a good time to reflect, and we always do reflect after every event, and we take a couple of months just to read the feedback and see what the lovely journalists have written about the event and what people are saying on the podcasts, and then we start working on the programme for next year. I'm really looking forward to that downtime, as you can imagine. But then I'm also really looking forward to getting creative come the autumn and start thinking about next year and also what the next 10 years holds.
So Louise, Alex Cherry there, absolutely delightful hearing from him and all of the... I mean, he must have put so much time in over the years to this event. I know it's organised by a massive production company and it's a really pro turnout and what they do, but it still must take up a heck of a lot of his time and bandwidth.
Oh, a huge amount of his time and bandwidth. And actually, I have to say, look at this event today. They're very successful again, isn't it? It's busy, it's optimistic, it's positive. Everybody's enjoying themselves, having fun. Even Alex, despite all the phone calls coming in and all the stuff he's having to sort out. So, well done to the Cherry family. Again, I mean, we do say that every year, but it is a good event and people are really having a good time.
It is a really good... Do you know, the one thing that I always notice about this event, it's like cereals, I always notice were the skylarks, okay, because that's part of cereals. Here, because they invest in the infrastructure and the site, have you noticed you always pretty much 80% of the time get a phone signal? Whereas other shows, they struggle like mad. And the other thing that I have to say, and we were in one of the big top tents, weren't we, watching some of the talks earlier, the detail and the quality of the production, whether you're talking about the staging, whether you're talking about the beautiful black backdrops with dried flowers.
The flowers are fabulous, aren't they?
And the audio visual, it is absolute exemplar stuff. It really is.
Yeah, I mean, I have to agree with that. And as a result, the sessions go down really, really well. You can see, you can hear, and most of the speakers are then accessible to us, which is fantastic as well. You know, you and I enjoyed hearing Jonathan Lundgren, didn't we, all the way from the US. You know, he's quite controversial, but wow, he delivers that speech so well, and really interesting stuff that he imparts.
Yeah, and it's, like I say, it's done in a really quality way in terms of how it's produced. Look, it's a great event. We know that it's a really diverse event. There are loads of different, as I said on the podcast the other week, it's like the highest density of NGOs anywhere probably on the planet in a 20-acre field. But as a result of that, you get a real mixed crowd here, don't you?
Well, you do, and actually they've got an app this year, so you can actually see all the attendees and see where they've come from. So you can actually break it down as to whether they're farmers, whether they're advisors, whether they're sustainability consultants, whatever it is that they do. So, you know, it's quite interesting to be able to do that. And the app has been helpful as well in terms of finding your way around and knowing what's going on.
And I think the other thing, listening to some of the international speakers and listening to some of the stuff that's going on, one thing I've definitely picked up, and actually the American gentleman that you just mentioned then when he was talking, I think we are, in terms of what we're doing, not just with regen, in terms of how we're looking at the whole of our agriculture and our approach to agriculture in the UK, and this is all farmers, so forget the blooming tagging and the regen, the non-regen, the conventional, all that old caper. Forget that. I think we are, when you speak to people from other countries that are here today, we are, without meaning to sound too blooming smug, we are quite a way ahead, aren't we?
Well, I have to agree with you. I actually sat in a session this morning which was about farming in drought conditions, and the speakers there were from Hungary and Poland, and I thought I was going to learn quite a lot about what we should be doing, but I have to say we're light years ahead of them. I mean, there were a couple of little nuggets to come out, but actually they're not, you know, regen is still a buzzword there. They're not really doing it, and things haven't changed, whereas they have really changed here. So I agree, absolutely agree with you, Hugh. That makes a change.
Yeah, whether it's regen or just sensible, logical farming. Let's not brand it about. Look, that's absolutely it for this week's episode of the Farmers Weekly podcast. Thank you so much for listening and for enduring my presentation skills on such a large bit of bandwidth on the interweb. It's been great here at Groundswell. Next week, I haven't got a clue what we'll be covering. Johan will be back from Johan took the Outlaws to Ireland this week, so that's why he's not here. So he may or may not be in a fit state of mind to do the podcast next week, but we'll have to wait and see. But in the meantime, thank you so much for listening. I'm Hugh Broom.
This episode of the Farmers Weekly podcast was brought to you by crop protection specialists Certis Belgium.